Welcome to UNIGINE Programming Quick Start tutorial, implementing game logic and using properties. In this video, you are going to learn how to manage properties, how to implement game logic using properties. In our project,
we are going to create a manual property inherited from the standard node base property.
And add two parameters. Selected, to indicate if the object is currently selected and we must highlight it, and material, to store the name of material assigned to the surface of the object in order to reset it when selection changes. We're going to use properties to select objects and highlight them by changing their material. Here, we will modify select object function and add mesh to scene method, utilize our mouse input handler, get object under mouse cursor, and select object methods from the previous sections. We're going to add a pointer to store previously selected object to reset back its material. We're going to modify remove mesh from scene method in order to check if we remove currently selected object to handle this situation correctly. Upon completion of this section, we're going to have something like that. So first, we're going to make a property, which is a simple XML file, and we're going to save it in the data folder of our application.
So we call it my node base.
And specify the prop extension. So here we specify the current XML version. It's 1.0. And the encoding we're going to use. It is a UTF-8. Then we insert the property tag and specify the current version.
We're going to name it my node base.
And we are actually going to inherit it
from the basic node base
property. So we specify parent equals to node base.
We also set the manual attribute to 1.
Now inside the property tag, we can specify the parameters. The first parameter is going to indicate if our object is currently selected. So we name it selected and we specify the default value 0. So the next parameter is going to store the material for our object. So we call it material and we specify the type of this parameter. It is a string and we'll write here some default value like some text. Okay. And then we close the parameter tag. So our property is ready and we can use it. So okay, in our header file, we gotta include the UNIGINE properties library. The next thing we do is we're going to declare a pointer to the previously selected object in order to restore back its material. We call it alt selection. So okay, now in our CPP file, let us modify our add mesh to scene method a little bit. So now we're going to assign the property after assigning materials.
So first, we find our property just like we did with materials. But this time, we use the find manual property method of the properties class and specify the name of the property. We call it my node base. Okay, so we assign the property to the object. Make note that here an internal property inherited from our my node base property is created and assigned to the node. It exists until the node is destroyed, so we don't need to care about deleting it. So to get the pointer to the new internal property, we use the getProperty method of the ObjectMeshDynamic class and specify the 0 index.
As we got the property, we're going to set its parameters. So first we're going to set the material parameter and we're going to use the setParameter string method in which we specify the parameter we're going to set. We use the findParameter method, which is used to find the index of the parameter with a given name. So I specify the name material and then we specify the value to be set. The next parameter we're going to set is our selected parameter.
We can use another way to set it here. We retrieve the pointer to the parameter by using the getParameterPointer method.
and specify the name of the parameter selected. And next we specify the value to be set. We're going to set it to 0 because the object is not selected by default. So okay, now let us modify the rest of the methods. And we'll start with update objects. Here we're going to implement our properties logic.
So we declare the property ID variable and initialize it by calling the findProperty method
of our object.
This method returns -1 if there is no such property found. So we're going to check this condition. So if there is such a property, that is the ID is greater than 0, we're going to retrieve a pointer to it by calling the getProperty method of our object. Then we're going to retrieve its parameters. For this purpose, we use the getParameterPointer method, as you remember.
And we specify the name of the parameter selected because we are going to check its value. If it is equal to 1, this means that our object is actually selected. We're going to change the material of our selected object to the mesh base material using the setMaterial method, as you already know. Okay? Otherwise, if the object is not selected, we're going to reset back its material. For this purpose, we're going to get the material parameter using the getParameterString method. And again, to find an index of the parameter, we use the findParameter method and specify the name of the parameter we want to find.
So there are two ways of getting the value of property parameters.
So now our highlighting logic in the update method is implemented. Now let us modify our selectObject method a little bit. Here we're going to add a new parameter, an object pointer. This is a pointer to the alt selected object. We're going to use it to restore the material of the previously selected object. So now, if our object is selected, we check if our new selected object has the myNodeBase property. And the next thing we're gonna do is we're going to set the selected parameter of our new selected object equal to 1. For this purpose, we again use the findParameter method and we specify the name of the parameter. And the next thing we do is we're going to store the pointer to our new selected object. Okay? And on success, we're going to return 1. And if we got the previously selected object, first of all, we must reset back its selected property to 0.
And let's add a simple check if our old and new selected object are actually the same object.
Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to modify our removeMeshFromScene method a little bit to handle the situation when we delete the currently selected object. So if we have a previously selected object and it is actually an object we're going to delete, then we must clear the old selection pointer. So, okay, now we're going to add the second parameter to our selectObject method, and we're also going to reset the old selection pointer by calling the clear method. And now we can check what we've got. Well, now we've implemented object selection and highlighting using properties. In the next section, we're going to learn how to create user interface.